What's up, everybody? Welcome back into TK Wrestling, and we're here with another TK pod. I think episode 6. I think at this point, we've basically just going to be a Monday Night Raw review, but that's all we really have to talk about today because, you know, we're finally off the busy weekend that was Saturday night's main event. We didn't get to watch any Battleground, but heard it was a good PLE nonetheless. Of course, AEW had their Double or Nothing this weekend, so that took a lot of wrestling eyes over to their product as well. So, I mean, look, Double or Nothing ended for AEW hours after the WWE competition. So, a lot of wrestling fatigue this weekend, I'm sure, for a lot of fans. I'm sure that may be, shown in the Netflix ratings. I'm sure we're going to get like another, oh, this was another low ratings week, and it's probably just the wrestling fatigue. But yeah, Matt, we're here to talk about Monday Night Raw, basically. Hello, how are you? Welcome in. I know we talked last pod about you being happy about the break to school. It looks like your little break is over. You're now getting integrated into the summer session of things.
Dude,
so
the fight against AI, my man, the fight against AI,
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, you know at this point that Matt is a professor, but he's an English professor specifically. And his line of work has been directly impacted by the rise of AI. So he's doing his due diligence to combat it in our everyday lives.
Because you still got to learn, man. AI can be helpful, but you still got to know how to do things. I mean, you can't. I mean, have you seen Idiocracy? You seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, you need. Maybe, like I said, I'm sure a lot of our listeners or watchers have seen Idiocracy, and or like if not, that was Wall-E. Remember Wall-E?
I do. I love Wall-E.
I mean, but think about all the humans on Wall-E. They can't even stand up.
True. No, look, man, I think I hate that AI in itself is so, it's so not energy efficient, is like the exact opposite of being energy efficient. But I don't think there's anything wrong with using AI to help spark some creativity in your projects or things you're trying to do. But as someone who you have seen the work of, you still have to know how to write things, and you still have to know how to, locate proper sources and be able to dissect the language that you speak. At the root of it all, we have to know how to do that.
I mean, AI should be a tool, not a crutch.
I agree.
Too many people just use it like, oh, well, done. I mean,
yeah.
Coca-Cola, man, even Coca-Cola. Anyways, all right.
Yeah,
so,
get into our AI TED Talk. But yeah, speaking of, right, little product placement. But we're here to talk about Monday Night Raw, an episode I thought was pretty decent. I think that Raw's been cooking lately. I know it's been getting a little bit of hate about this was a slow episode, but
really, people are calling this a slow episode. Is that what they're saying right now?
I mean, I've been seeing that just about Monday Night Raw for the last few weeks in general.
Wow.
People think maybe not necessarily slow, but just like not really progressive in the way that they want it to be, or, but at the same time, I just kind of disagree. I think that sure, maybe things feel a little bit all over the place in some aspects of certain storylines that go on Monday Night Raw. But at the same time, you got a lot of talent, dude. You got a lot of talent that you're trying to get TV time. I mean, look, Logan Paul is set for Logan Paul, John Cena, and Cody Rhodes are all going to be in the same match as Jey Uso, and only one of them was on Monday Night Raw tonight. So, it just goes to show you that not every week can be just every single blockbuster name. You're going to have some of the biggest names that aren't going to be there every week, and the next week it's going to trade out with some of the other biggest superstars. Only certain guys and gals are going to be there every week. So I think that's a big part of it, is people just want everybody to be there every single show.
And I think when we talk about fatigue a little bit, it's a real thing. I mean, we're having like more PLEs this year, I think, than ever before, with all these Saturday night main events and everything else, and adding back PLEs like Evolution, which should be there. I'm not saying it shouldn't. I'm just saying just more PLEs in general. So I think this was a good episode of Raw, and that was kind of short, sweet. I thought it was pretty action packed. But it was short, sweet, and to the point. It did what it had to do, got in, got out. We know where we're going. We're going to Money in the Bank. Everything now leads to Money in the Bank. So let's get there, as fast as we can, but also progress storylines. So I thought this was a really heavy storyline episode in a lot of ways. I don't think there are a lot of surprises in the matches that we saw. But that's just me.
No, I don't think a ton of surprises, but I think you're right in the way that there was a lot of storyline progression for the storylines we have currently going on. I also think that, excluding the Rusev and Tozawa match, because we all knew what that was going to be, I think every single match last night was excellent. I thought all three triple threats were good, because we had 3 triple threat matches. Mm-hmm. I thought all 3 of them were really good. I thought Kairi Sane and Liv Morgan was really good as well. I mean, but you think about, we'll talk about it when we get there, but yeah, I thought every match was good last night, and I thought every match played its part, and I thought there was a lot of good mic work last night. I don't know. I just thought it was a good show.
Yeah, no, like I said, it was good. It was short. Like it was like 2.5 hours instead of 3.
Well,
So,
you keep saying this, Matt. Raw hasn't been 3 hours since they started in January.
I thought Raw and SmackDown have both been like on average 3 hours ish. I know
SmackDown
Raw,
is 3 hours. Yeah,
I know Raw sometimes goes 2:45 or whatever. It cuts off earlier because it's on Netflix. It doesn't have a broadcast time it has to adhere to. But this, I feel like this was the shortest Raw of the Netflix era. I could be wrong.
It might have been.
And look them up, but I feel like this was the shortest one of the Netflix era, which is fine. I felt it was very fast paced at the same time. And man, and like here we go though. Here's my biggest gripe though. We just had Saturday Night Main Event, which is 2 hours long, and all them commercial breaks. And then we have this, albeit on Netflix, but you see it's almost the same length of show, and you see how the commercial breaks just work so much. Could you imagine yet again getting cut off in the middle of that yeeting? I mean,
right. Well, I actually made a note of that later on whenever Jay came out. His Monday Night Raw entrance that they showed before they cut to commercial was longer than his Saturday Night's Main Event entrance before they cut to commercial.
Exactly.
That's what I told you during our review. It just felt like a really big production flub. It felt like production just wasn't on time, wasn't on cue. It felt like they were trying to squeeze in commercials at the wrong spots because they maybe mistimed them in other places. And again, we don't work in WWE production, so like, haha, point the finger at us and laugh. But
Paul, Triple H, whatever you want me to call you, if you need some help, Casey and I, we're available. So
we're always available. We're always ready for the call.
That's right.
Always ready for the call for wrestling. But let's talk about some wrestling. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw.
Speaking of calls, we start off with Seth Rollins going out there and calling it out. And I thought I was right. I thought we weren't going to see CM Punk this week. I kept waiting for somebody to come out there and break up his intro. You know what I mean? I kept waiting. It was like he was giving opportunities and we were hearing crickets. No Sami Zayn, no Jey Uso, no CM Punk, and it's also interesting because we're watching Seth kind of poke the audience because I think they've got to figure out how to make Seth a heel. You know what I mean? Because as Paul Heyman even pointed out, 5 minutes ago, everybody was out here singing his song, or maybe it was Seth who pointed that himself. Everybody was out here singing his song. So I feel like they've got to figure out ways. Like Paul Heyman's really good about it. He told Braun Breaker that he had like the better bloodline or something like that, or he came from the more powerful bloodline, which just irritates everyone. And then I think he said something to acknowledge Seth Rollins. Which is, so Heyman knows how to, just piss off the crowd, because you don't have to say those, like he's doing, he's doing it just to do the heel stuff. So I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the crowd. I'm waiting for when the crowd and Seth, when it finally coalesces and they're going to change his intro music. I heard that is one suggestion.
I honestly think they should. And I don't even think it's necessarily because the crowd sings it. I don't think that's like an easy way for the heel to be like, I don't sing my song. And, it's just an easy way to get heat or whatever. But I just kind of felt like Seth has always changed his music up here and there. And I just feel like now it's kind of time for that to finally happen, because I feel like he's honestly outgrown the Burn It Down. He's been doing that for like 6 or 7 years now, and cool, whatever, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it matches the aura that he and his group have been bringing lately. I like, don't get me wrong, the singing that the crowd does, sure, that kind of plays into it, but I kind of feel like the music was reminiscent back then of him trying to like garner the support of the audience, whether they hated him or loved him. And now we all know that he knows that we all think he's really good. And I think he's past the point of like needing that praise from us. He knows that we think he's really good. He just wants to take over the WWE as a whole. And I maybe think that new music might, in a small part, play into that character change for him. I don't know.
I mean, it's something like a new intro song that just opens with something like the WWE needed me.
Maybe. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Something. I don't know. I mean, because he's just, and it works right now for the character, because right now he's not total heel in his brain. He's doing something he feels like is beneficial. He's doing the right thing. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to watch this dynamic. Like, how do you get a guy that's like, you know, so loved, at least, you know, for the most part? I mean, you know, he might not be the most loved, you know, but he is definitely, you know, like
he's held in high regard. Yeah.
He's got to be a top 5-ish, we'll say, you know, on any given night, you know, top 3 any given night of who shows up. You know, it's him right now. It's Jay, it's Punk, it's Roman, and Cody, maybe, right? Those might be the 5 people, you know, who they come out and, you know, everybody just, you know, loves, burns it down. You know, I mean, some guys like Randy Orton's getting back there, you know, maybe if he wants to be. I don't know. We'll see what happens with Randy, right? We haven't seen Randy since.
I haven't seen Randy in a minute.
Yeah. So, but yeah, anyways, so this is all to say that I just kept waiting for somebody to come out, and nobody did. And when nobody did, I was even happier, which makes my disappointment at the end of the night even more. All right, go on.
Yeah, sorry. Well, Paul Heyman hyped up the group, including, really, I mean, I think this was just because this was the first Raw after his introduction to the group, but really hyped up Bronson Reed. Made the point that, you know, back before Bronson Reed was a part of this group and before he got injured, that he was the one that laid out Seth Rollins in one night, and that the amount of damage that Bronson Reed did to Seth in one night was more than the damage that Seth had ever taken from Roman Reigns, or that he ever took in that triple threat match at WrestleMania against Roman and Punk. So they really put Bronson Reed over pretty heavy here.
Yeah, no, he pointed out that Bronson was the reason CM Punk wasn't out there, because of what he did to him at Saturday Night Main Event, you know?
Exactly. So, but yeah, and back to the line that you said, a badass in a true bloodline of badasses when talking about Braun Breaker. So, you know, taking his bloodline and, you know, cementing it into this group. So yeah, I thought this was really good for them. I wasn't as disappointed at the ending of the night as you were, but I think I would have liked it. I did like it that nobody showed up to interrupt him here, because what would have been the end result, right? We just would have set up even more the triple threat later in the night, which I didn't really need. I thought that there was enough going on in the background to get us excited enough for that match, because when I saw the graphic that was Seth, Sammy, and Finn, I was automatically excited. I didn't need the extra fuel to the flame. The flame was already ignited when I saw the graphic and saw that we were getting that as the qualifier. So I'm happy that nobody came out just like you. I thought this was a good segment.
Yeah, you know, and like we can't have guys getting interrupted otherwise the storyline is never going to get going. You know, this had to happen like this. We got to take Seth pure full heel, and we're getting there. So yeah, we'll see where it goes, but we know it's all leading right now to Money in the Bank. The problem is I went and looked up, because Wikipedia's got this nice little, you know, Money in the Bank that lets you know what matches are coming. So I was like, oh, the Fatu Andrade Carmelo Hayes qualifier on SmackDown and yada yada. But somebody, and I don't know if they just got happy fingers, but they had Rollins already in there as qualified before the match had started. They got Fatu already as qualified, and they got Punk already as qualified. So this just might, because, you know, anybody can edit Wikipedia, but I wonder if somebody with a little bit of knowledge edited Wikipedia a little too soon. So we don't even know what the final Money in the Bank men's match is yet, but somebody's got Punk winning it. So just
very interesting.
So you want super early rumor mills? That, I mean, we're creating this rumor technically. I mean, you know,
I guess, yeah.
So Fatu and Punk are the other 2 members that are supposed to join solo. You know, I guess we'll finish talking about who else is in it. So that's one of them's our next match.
Yeah, well, and before we jump into that, I do want to say I'm curious so here's my thing. If Bronson Reed was the last member of this group, I felt like, because I was expecting it the whole time, I felt like this would have been the perfect promo to put an official name to the group. And they haven't done that yet. Even with the addition of Bronson Reed, that makes me think that we have another member, that we're getting a 4th man. I don't know who it's going to be. You know, everybody's thought Austin Theory for a while, and then a few other names have been thrown around. And I think we're past the point of Sammy joining the group, because I think that would have had to have happened at Saturday. But I'm curious now if we are getting a 4th person because we don't have the name of this group, because this felt like the perfect promo opportunity, fresh off of Saturday night's main event, fresh off of adding who would have been the last guy to your group to really cement a name. But the fact that we didn't get that makes me feel like we have somebody else on the way.
All right, you want to do some super future booking? All right,
sure.
Let's go all the way to Money in the Bank. Seth wins Money in the Bank. Becky beats Lyra. Becky joins the faction, and I still think by that point the Judgment Day has exploded, and Finn and JD join as the tag team duo for the faction. So now you have a female and you've got a tag team. I'm just saying that now the Finn and JD, now that's all probably way too crazy, but it wouldn't be crazy for Becky to join her husband, would it? Would that be crazy?
I don't think the Becky one is crazy at all. You know, you remember when we first started talking about the group that I thought Becky was a really good shout to go and join up with her husband. And I'd love to see a super heel power couple, you know, and especially since the fact that, as we'll talk about in a minute, Becky brought up her husband. Seth was brought up in that promo between Becky and Lyra. But in terms of JD and Finn, I do see them whenever the Judgment Day finally meets its implosion. I do see them going off and being a separate group together. But my only hang up with them joining up with the Seth coalition or faction is that I feel like Roxanne Perez has to go along with Finn and JD. I feel like that has to be a part. And if you're asking me, do I want Finn, JD, and Roxanne to join, or would I rather just Becky Lynch? I would rather just Becky Lynch. I would rather Finn, JD, and Roxanne go off and do their own thing.
Do Becky and Roxanne not get along?
I just think that's too many. I think at that point you're starting a WCW NWO thing.
Why don't you bring Roxanne on as well, and then you've got a women's tag team with Roxanne and Becky?
Don't you think that would devalue the Intercontinental title that we just put on Becky to add her to the group?
I mean, now that she's doing.
All of a sudden you shift your focus to, hey, I know you just won this title, but we're also teaming you up with Roxanne so that way you can go off on the tag title and make that your priority.
I thought they liked having 2 titles. Wasn't she a 2-title girl already once? You know?
Yeah, but I think a big problem with the women's tag division is you just rely too heavily on big names jumping into think about who all the past names have been that have come in. You know, the last time we actually had a real tag team that was not just like a thrown together mess was, maybe Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, because then you look at Jade and Bianca, you know, not a real tag team that was formed prior to just going after the tag titles. Liv and Raquel, sure, you can use them as an example, but they came together due to different storylines. They weren't an existing tag team currently in that tag team scene. So I think a big problem with the women's tag division is relying too heavily on the fact of there's no reason that Becky and Lyra or Bayley and Lyra should have been the team going after Liv and Raquel at WrestleMania. It should have been an actual solidified women's tag team, because the problem with throwing these amalgamation of tag teams together is that they have no prior chemistry or link to each other to keep them together. Once things go bad or once they lose the tag titles, the writing is on the wall that they're just going to break the tag team up, and then you leave the women's division where it was before.
I think it'd be interesting, like I said, you combine Becky and Roxanne, and you immediately can have a feud with both Liv and Raquel, assuming that they survive this Judgment Day breakup. We'll get to that a little bit later. And then you have a tag team of Lyra and Bayley, you know? So you could have them feud with both those tag teams, and then who knows what else pops up. I'm just saying, if I want to make my big group work, because I want like I said, I wanted to come down
I think you have a good idea in your brain, but I think you're too hung up on saying that everybody has to be aligned. It doesn't have to be I want to be with Seth because I love Seth and I truly believe in what he's thinking. It could be well, I don't like that person on that side of the room, and they're beefing with this person over here. So just because I'm beefing with that person over here, I'm automatically on this side. It doesn't have to be an allegiance to Seth. It could just be circumstances of being on the same side against the same.
One world under Rollins, man. I'm just saying, one world under Rollins.
Go back and look at what happened to NWO and the WCW and how it got killed. They added too many people. And whenever you start talking about, okay, you're talking about Seth, you're talking about Braun, you're talking about Bronson Reed, you're talking about Paul Heyman. Let's say we add Finn Balor, JD McDonough, Roxanne Perez, and Becky Lynch. That's 50% of your TV time going into one group. That's a really quick way to make somebody hate your group and want it off TV. Well, oversaturation then you're looking at oversaturation. It won't be like heel heat. It'll be I'm tired of seeing this group on my screen.
The Judgment Day's got Dom, Carlito, Liv, Raquel, Finn. That's fine.
And how many of them are serious? How many of them do we take seriously as championship competitors, though? When you start overlapping too many championship competitors in the same group, what has JD competed for? One world tag title? That's it.
I'm just getting their 6.
Yeah.
I mean,
JD's not competing for titles. Carlito's not competing.
Were Damian and Rhea still part when everybody else was still part? So that's 8.
Not everybody. No.
Okay. I mean,
no.
I guess I mean, was Liv not Rhea? Were Liv and Rhea part of the Judgment Day at the same time? I don't know.
No, because Liv turned the whole group like against Rhea.
Right.
That was
when
the
Rhea
whole thing.
when Rhea got hurt, I just didn't know if she was there before Rhea got hurt. I couldn't remember.
No, it started out as Edge, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley. That was it. And then they turned on Edge, kicked Edge out, and then Finn Balor joined. And then they brought in Dominic Mysterio, and then they brought in JD McDonough as like a pseudo member, kind of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Carlito came somewhere in the mix, but then you dropped off. Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley were gone, and then Liv Morgan came in. So it's never been more than like 4 to 5, like 6 members. But the important thing is that not all of them are taken seriously as championship competitors. Like Carlito's not going out there for a title. We know what Carlito's role in the group is. Finn has so far not shown us that he's seriously competing for a championship outside of a tag title with JD McDonough. Like, there's only been 1, 2, 3, 4 singles champions in the Judgment Day as a group while they've been together, and 2 of them are gone, and the other 2 are Liv and Dom. That's it. Those have been the only singles champions in the group. But when you're talking about all the guys and all the gals that you have talking about joining one group, you're talking about 6 or 7 people that can realistically be world champion all at the same time. And when all of a sudden you have an oversaturation of all the best talent, quote unquote, best talent in one group, then all of a sudden you're like, what levels of dynamics does this group have other than we're just a bunch of big, strong people competing with each other to steal the championship for what? For Seth? Like,
I think we're watching everybody try to take him down from the CM Punk faction, which would be like CM Punk, Sami Zayn. You know, I mean, it depends if there's like then a Cody Rhodes faction or something, you know, and then like with the Luchador faction after they get done with Chad Gable, you know, and then slowly you got these guys picking. I don't know. I can see how it works, but I can see how it not work. I'd be curious to play with it though. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go bigger than that. Like that would be as big as I'd probably go. You know, I might bring Gunther on or something. Like I said, just to be like, you know, but like you said, Gunther's not in the alliance, but he is aligned with us, you know, sort of thing. Like maybe that's the same with like Finn, Dom, or Finn, JD, and Roxanne. Is they're not with us, but they're aligned with us. I don't know, but I could see just this, you know. Hey man, we're gonna get some advice from Seth. We're gonna get some advice from Seth and Paul real fast. Yeah, no, since it's just us.
I don't see, and I don't hate that kind of stuff because I feel like more so instead of a huge group, I think I like the idea of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know, or so, you know, something like that. It's like, you know, I might not be aligned with Seth and his group, but through certain other means, the person that I'm beefing with is also beefing with somebody that's in Seth's group, or Seth has dealt with them before. Like, I like the idea of going to Seth and Paul for advice as like the people that kind of run the, you know, the overarching thing. But then it's also like, okay, we can still let these groups go off and do their own thing. They don't necessarily have to pledge allegiance to Seth, but it's just like, again, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and all of a sudden we may just find ourselves on the same side of battles here and there. I like that idea.
I'd love to see Becky take it from Lyra at Money in the Bank. I'd love to see Roxanne get like the women's, you know, I don't know, get into the women's title scene somehow. Let JD and Finn, after the Judgment Day blow up, go tag, you know, and become tag team champions. Let Braun take it from Cena, and then like have it all culminate with Seth cashing in on Jay or something, you know, and then all of a sudden they've all got him, and now it's like, we've got to stop these heels who have all the championships. We got to go fight back. And then you've got Cody leading the SmackDown team and Punk leading the Raw team, you know, and I don't know, like an epic
I think
fight
we're
of
going to
good
see
versus
something.
evil.
I think we're going to see something, but I think the overall group of Seth is going to be one more person, whether it be Becky or another male member. I'm not sure, but I think it's just going to be one person. All right, well, let's talk about our first Money in the Bank qualifier match. We had Chad Gable going up against Penta and Dragon Lee. Look, we talked about it at the top of the show. I thought that every match tonight was great, so I'm not going to necessarily go into the huge details of like how every match was absolutely spectacular and fantastic. But I mean, look, the match was fun. They went a little bit of a scary spot where Chad Gable got dumped on his face with that, was it like a package pile driver?
Yeah,
it's
Penta
a weird move.
Penta had, you know, Dragon Lee on his back, doing something to him on his back, and Chad up front. And
yeah, I think the move on the back is called the Gory Special, and then I can't remember the exact move like placement from Penta, but yeah, it dropped him clean on his face. And Gable took a beating this match. Like he took some blows, but eventually we do get a crazy dive. Did you see the dive? Because they had to replay it because it was so fast.
Oh yeah, no, look, Dragon Lee looked great in this match. He looked so good to start the match and whatnot that I was afraid he was going to take the pin. I was like, come on, man, don't have Dragon Lee take the pin. I go, because you knew Penta was winning this for the most part.
That's what I was hoping. But hey, Chad Gable's been a heavy favorite for a lot of people to win the briefcase this year.
I figured Chad Gable's doing enough stuff, and he done it. I think Worlds Collide is like right before Money in the Bank or something like that, same weekend.
Yeah, but they did address that on commentary. They were like, look, if he wins, he's going to have to wrestle earlier in the night and then go right to the arena later on that night. And who knows, maybe El Grande Americano qualifies for Money in the Bank, and we see him wrestle both days as different people, if that is Chad Gable.
Now, that would be great to get El Grande Americano in the final match and have it not be CM Punk and El Grande Americano.
Because that's Penta's kryptonite. You put Penta's kryptonite in the Money in the Bank match.
Yeah, no, Gable's kryptonite's Penta. Penta's kryptonite is El Grande Americano. And no, but but going back to Dragon Lee though, no, that Dragon Lee flying,
like a missile.
Just flying like arm bar or whatever from the top rope. Was it from the top rope?
No, I think he went through the middle rope or something and just flew
over the desk. He went over the desk.
Yeah. I mean, it was so crazy. It made Pat McAfee drop a holy shit on commentary. It was great.
It was great. No, it was like we've seen Braun, take it into the desk, and whatnot, but we haven't seen anybody. That's the farthest, and that was just. And yeah, what's up with these desks now that don't break? I mean, like they used to break, like if you blew on them. Now you've got guys jumping full. I wonder which one's better. On the wrestlers. Is it better to have the desk collapse or is it better to have it not? Because man, that looked painful.
We're gonna have to ask somebody one day.
Oh, but
we have no idea.
Look, this was a fun match. I think it's what you expect. We got we got a little, like I said, we got a little preview, I guess, of Worlds Collide with Vikingo in the audience and him and Gable having a little interaction, technically costing Gable the match at the end. We'll say though, pretty sure Penta would have found a way to win anyways. But yeah, no, this was like I said, this is exactly what you expect from these guys. I thought the best showing came from Dragon Lee, who, I feel like gets a little overlooked in all the luchadors that we have. I mean, you've got, Rey Mysterio, who's his tag partner that, usually gets all the love, and then you've got Penta and Rey Fénix coming up and they're getting all the love. I feel like, don't forget about Dragon Lee, man. Super talented guy. So
yeah, no, you share the sentiment with a lot of folks online that Dragon Lee was one of the guys that was getting pushed pretty heavily as one of the next luchadors, and then Penta and Rey Fénix showed up and he kind of took a back seat. And I think a big part of it was Rey Mysterio also getting injured, prior to WrestleMania. So I think that was a big blow to Dragon Lee, and maybe this is the start of the comeback for him. So yeah, I like seeing the Vikingo spot, him being ringside and Chad Gable getting involved. Vikingo hitting him with a nasty kick to the forehead that busted him open and legit busted him open too. So not surprised at all, but really excited to see Penta in the Money in the Bank match for the first time and see how that goes. I wish Fénix could have been in it with him so we could have seen the brothers be in it together, but you've kind of gotten the impression that WWE has been a little higher on Penta as a single star than they have been as with Penta over on SmackDown. I think they're slowly starting to remedy that a little bit, but I still think the ultimate goal is Penta and Rey Fénix as a tag team, because I don't think Penta wins this.
We're just waiting for the draft for that to happen or whatever.
I agree. If we are still getting the draft, it would make sense to me to make it after Money in the Bank. You have your briefcases. You can split up your world champions. You can shift them around if you wanted to, and then you have a lot of you have a world championship match that night, which could realistically shake up the foundation of the draft, because what if Gunther wins, but Jey Uso gets drafted to SmackDown or something like that? So many different ways that could happen, especially with the briefcase already being, kind of locked into the storylines going forward. All right, so backstage, Liv Morgan is back, and she walks into the Judgment Day clubhouse to Dirty Dom getting a kind of a shoulder rub from Roxanne Perez, and Liv's like, hey, what's been going on while I've been gone? And Dom starts stuttering, and she says, don't even worry about it. Raquel's been telling me everything that's been going on. So, yeah, look, she said she's going to go get a match to qualify for Money in the Bank, and we eventually see another segment with her later that's going to set up another match for later on tonight against Kairi Sane. But, I knew Liv wasn't going to be gone for long. I'm glad she's already back. And man, this was a Judgment Day heavy Monday Night Raw. I wrote at the very end of my notes, this felt like a week to really speed up the downfall of the Judgment Day. Like I felt like 2 weeks ago, we were 50% further from the Judgment Day split. And after these last 2 weeks, they've just sped that process up by 50%. You know, they just really sped it up. And I really think that SummerSlam is by the time we reach SummerSlam, I think this group's going to basically be a thing of the past. And I think it'll officially be done. I have a prediction for later on as we talk about the show about a match we might get at SummerSlam with some of the members of the Judgment Day. But, you know, we could talk about that a little later. But what did you think about this little backstage segment?
Oh, I thought it was fun. It was full of Easter eggs. I wish I went back and watched it again to see, because Carlito is playing WWE 2K20.
He always is. He always is.
And I can't tell if he's playing as Damian Priest. It looked like Damian Priest, and I couldn't tell. It looked like a luchador on there, but not one that I was familiar with. So I wanted to go back and be like, all right, and was he playing as a luchador or was he playing as a priest, you know? Because that'd be funny if he's playing as priest, you know, like I'm playing with the guy as the guy. And then, like, is there any, you know, hints in there, you know, like sort of thing, like, you know, because where's Priest go, you know, like after this, now this Drew McIntyre feud is over with, where's Priest going to go, especially now that he's on SmackDown as well, you know, are we going to, I mean, like I said, might be a draft thing, might be post SummerSlam, post Money in the Bank, but is this some sort of like, you know, Judgment Day reforms with Priest? You know,
I think that was just a callback to Priest being in the group, because they did that a lot when Priest was around. Right. He would always walk in and Carlito would be playing 2K and he would always be using, I think, either Priest or just a member of the Judgment Day. So that was an Easter egg spotted. Great job, but I don't think it's going to lead to anything in the future. All
right. Then otherwise, yeah, no, I mean, I guess the biggest thing is this, like, yeah, Liv's back. Happy she's back. Surprised she's back this soon. Figured it'd be another week maybe. But she's got herself a Money in the Bank qualifying spot, which I assume is going to be on next week's Raw. It kind of has to be on next week's Raw, I guess. So we're going to get Liv again next week in a Money in the Bank match. And and we got the chicken nuggets. We got Dom. We got Finn looking please just punch. I love the camera framing on this because, you know, all of a sudden Finn is right there, bottom center of the camera, just his face just looking like a kid that stole all the cookies out of the cookie jar and didn't get caught, you know. So just a lot of fun spot. Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of story this episode. This was a lot of Judgment Day story going on. But it was quick. It was to the point. It wasn't any longer than it had to be. I loved how we kind of got in, got out. We didn't linger. You know, like you said, Liv mentioned that Raquel's kept her informed. She didn't need to worry about it right now. And that was it. So, curious to see all these feuds that are going to be forming. Roxanne obviously going to try to fit in. Isn't going to fit in. Finn's loving every minute of it. We'll see who goes with who. But yeah, no, this is the beginning of the end of the Judgment Day.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that. I'm going to send you, I told you prior to starting that I was working on the thumbnail. So I'm going to send you the thumbnail that I was working on, and I think you'll get a little kick out of it. But yeah, I thought it was a good spot, and I'm glad Liv is back already. So into our next match. I think, again, the match we talked about, it being exactly what we expect it to be. Rusev versus Tozawa. Look, it was a squash. We all expected it to be a squash. You asked last week, or that Saturday night's main event, was John Cena and R-Truth a squash? No, this was a squash. This was the definition of a squash match. So Rusev getting the quick and easy win as we all expected. I thought maybe Akira Tozawa may get like a little spark of offense, but he didn't even really get that.
He got to do a flying kick into the chest for like one shot, basically.
Exactly. And you know, I thought he might get like a little 5 to 10 second flurry of offense, but that's it. So immediately after the match, you know, Rusev has the lock even more locked in, and then the Celtic Warriors Sheamus's music hits, and we get a little stare down from them. This is the rivalry that everybody wanted right when Rusev came back.
Really?
But I felt. Okay. Yeah, but I felt like it made sense because these are two heavy hitters. This is gonna be a heavy hitting match, and they have history between each other. They used to be in a faction together, and so I thought that everybody wanted this rivalry at first, but I also think that it was a good idea to have them, because let's not forget, Sheamus has recently returned as well. And so I thought it was a good idea to have Sheamus finish up his stuff with Waller and Theory, and then Rusev finish up his stuff with Otis and Tozawa. So now they've both come out on these separate ends of their own rivalries successful, and they now can go head to head in this probably brutal matchup. It's going to be a beatdown. These guys are going to really lay into each other. But yeah, I'm excited for this. thumbs all the way up. Not surprised by the result of this Tozawa match at all. Do you have anything that you want to add?
Just that I was not aware that Sheamus is bigger than Rusev. I did not realize that when the two men were staring each other down the middle of the ring. I was like, oh God. I'm like, Sheamus has got Rusev by like 4 inches or something. Like it's noticeable, you know? So just kind of surprised by that. Looking forward to this. Not really sure where it's going to go. Like I said, I don't know enough of the back history on another pod. You'll have to catch all of us up on the Rusev Sheamus history and whatnot, and how this is going to work. Because I mean, I'm not sure how it's going to work, but I love the stare down. I kept waiting for something to happen, and yet again, I love that it didn't. I feel like more story was done with Rusev backing out and just staring, because I kept waiting, like maybe he's going to come back, because then he went back to the middle of the walkway or whatever and stood there for a second, and I just kept waiting, like, well, maybe he's changed his mind, and he didn't. So really curious, because Sheamus is a hoot. He's a hoot, you know. I mean, and he's so white. God, he's so pale white. I mean, he was wearing a white t-shirt. I think he was whiter than the t-shirt. So just, yeah, I mean, just really, really fun, really curious to see what happens with the Sheamus Rusev thing. But I said, I don't know enough about it going in. I don't know what either of their trajectories are, given that they just got back. So I'm curious for them. I need them to develop some sort of story or whatever, besides just Sheamus coming out there to save poor Akira Tozawa from being broken in half, you know. So that's yeah, you know, look, I'm curious, but I got no background, so that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think we'll get more of that, of what you're seeking next week. I think we'll definitely get some of that, because I think this backing off of Rusev was the way to just, you know, let the crowd know, as if we didn't already, that Sheamus is a legitimate threat to the damage that Rusev just, you know, displayed in front of all of us with Tozawa. So yeah, without the backstory, I see you see where you're coming from, and I think you'll get a little more of that in-depth storyline, physicality building next week. All right, so we have a few triple threat matches tonight. For the World Tag Team Championships, we have the New Day defending against the War Raiders and the Creed Brothers. But prior to that, we get a little backstage, because they've been doing this thing where they do the first entrance of a match and then they go to commercial, and when they come back, they do like a backstage segment and then they go back to the ring. It's a weird production choice. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but they've really kicked it into high gear ever since they've moved over to Netflix. And yeah, I think it's very interesting, because we haven't seen that before. But before the match, Sammy and Jay are talking backstage, and Uso says that Sammy has to be smart if we want to take down this group that Seth Rollins is putting together, and like he can't just be hasty and go out on his own yet. Which is, again, I think, leaning himself more towards the fact that Sami Zayn is going towards this lone wolf style character, and that he's just kind of like, you even see when Jay walked away, he kind of like gave him a little look and then put his head down and was like trying to get back in the zone. And I don't think it's necessarily a descent towards Jay Uso or anything like that. I just feel like Sammy is maybe being tired of being told what to do. You know, maybe he feels like he knows what's best for him, and he's been, by him helping everyone else around him, he has not been able to do what's best for him. And maybe eventually Sammy's just going to get tired of doing what's best for everybody else, and he's just going to do what's best for Sami Zayn. And the one thing that Sammy wants is that world championship. And eventually Sammy's got to do what's right for him and not what's right for his best friend, Jey Uso. And what's right for his best friend, Jey Uso, right now is Sami Zayn not adding another target to his back and going after that World Heavyweight Championship. Again, and then what we saw from Sami later on in the night with another person backstage, I think that we're slowly getting to where I think that we should be headed with Sami. Yeah, I like this little backstage teaser segment. And I think they've been doing this for a few weeks now, where they put Sammy and Jay in these backstage segments together. And if you just watch Sammy's body language and his eyes and the way that he just looks at Jay sometimes, especially when Jay's not looking, you'll see a lot more of those layers being added. And you're like, maybe Sammy is plotting something, and maybe he doesn't realize he's plotting it, but maybe he's just slowly building up this little rage of like, you know, I hate being told what to do. Like, why do I have to show restraint, but Jey Uso can go out there and do whatever he wants to do? Why do I have to show restraint, but AJ Styles can go and knock somebody out? You know what I'm saying? So I think we're getting that slow Sammy build to a turn in some ways. I'm interested to see how we get there.
See, this is two parts then. This is why I hate that Seth Rollins got that title shot against Jay like 3 weeks ago or whatever it was, you know? I hate that happened so soon, and I don't want Seth to win Money in the Bank. Though I think Seth winning Money in the Bank would be a lot of fun. for the way I would like the Sammy storyline to go, I don't want him to win Money in the Bank. I would love for it to come down to, like I said, like Sammy, Jay, and Punk going through a war of attrition with Seth's faction, you know? And I'd love it to be even that, like, SummerSlam, or, yeah, we'll say SummerSlam or something, that Jay and Seth, like, we'll say after they have their 3-man tag match and whatnot, or whatever, you know, that Seth, that's when Seth gets his title shot against Jay. And just after, like, some brutal, bloody battle or whatever, Jay ends up on top. And then Sammy, who won Money in the Bank, cashes in on Jay. That's what I would love. But we're not going to go that way. And because of that, I don't know if we're going to see Sammy go lone wolf, or when do we see Sammy go lone wolf. I feel like right now we're going to see Sammy teaming up to take on the Seth faction. And we're going to see, like I said, with the other interaction, we'll talk about that when we get to it. But I thought this kind of solidified, especially with Jay coming out at the end of the night and whatnot. I feel like this solidified that Sammy and Jay are working together, and CM Punk as well, against this Seth Rollins faction, against maybe all their best interests. You know what I mean?
I think you're right for now. But how fast does Sammy make a mistake that costs his team a big win against Seth, or
I'll tell you what,
whether it's inadvertent or not?
If Sammy had Money in the Bank, I would be 100% more for this, because I could see that, you know. Because then I
don't think the turn happens like next week or anything.
No, but I can see it happen like in 3 months with the briefcase. You know what I mean? So
we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. All right. So this 3
into the triple threat tag team match. Yeah, triple threat for the world tag team titles.
I do not like that only 2 men are supposed to be. Now, don't get me wrong. We didn't have that through much of the match. Like, it took the match, like a good 3 minutes to actually officially start. Yeah. Because we had so much brawling just going on to start and whatnot. But I don't like this 3 tag matches, but only 2 dudes in the match at a time sort of thing. I mean, I know that's probably how it's been forever. What are your thoughts on that, Casey?
No, I'm not a fan of it either. And I know a lot of people aren't as well, but I just don't understand in today's day and age why we can't have a triple threat style tag matches, like with just 3 people in the ring. And I guess it raises the question of like, oh, what do we do with the no disqualification? I don't know, dude. It's not my job to figure it out, but it is my job as the fan to watch stuff and be like, I don't like that. I don't like that. And I don't like that in a 6-person match, only 2 of them can be in at a time, and you can just randomly tag in. Like, I guess it adds to the unpredictability, but
I mean, but then the fact that you can get you could slap somebody else and tag yourself in a sense. Like, I don't know how long that's existed. Maybe that's always existed, but I'm always.
It's been around forever. Yeah, it's been around forever.
Maybe I'm just more used to, like, usually it has to be a purposeful tag from one partner to another, you know? So now it's like, oh, you're just happen to be by my side of the ring. Boop.
Well, even in a traditional tag match, you don't have to like reach your hand on tag. The person sitting on the rope can't just reach in and tag themselves in. Yeah, that can't just happen in a traditional tag.
I guess I don't see it as much, you know, like I said, I see it more now, obviously, but I mean, I don't remember it as much. Maybe as a kid, just when you watch as a kid, it's just more drama because you're always like, oh.
Yeah,
That we all know the tag we're talking about. The 3/4 of the way through the match tag where they both tag at the same time and then boom, 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 boom.
So Matt, wrestling terminology, that's called the hot tag.
The hot tag.
It's called
all right.
The hot tag. And you know, let me make a little real life correlation to you. It's one of those things where, like, you know, you start driving a car and you're like, ooh, I like this car. I haven't seen a ton of people driving this car around. And then you get the car and you see 30 of them a day. Right. And you're like, what the hell? Nobody had this car. It's one of those things where you didn't notice that people were like tapping themselves in. And now every tag match you see, you're going to see it like 10 times. And you're going to be like, damn, how did I not notice this before? But it's just one of those things that you just kind of notice over time. But yeah, so War Raiders start the chaos outside of the ring, taking everybody out. Everybody takes turns throwing each other around. And then the part that I didn't necessarily love was and I guess I can't say that because it did come into play. I guess it caught me off guard that the heels just worked together so like willingly. up front, and we're just like, yeah, we're two separate teams and we're both heels, and we're just gonna work together. Now we do see that the craftiness and the veteran style of the New Day, maybe that was the plan all along, and it came back to bite the Creed brothers because the New Day did retain via a roll up on the Creed brothers. So it's like, aha, you thought we were working with you this whole time, but we were just tricking you so that way we could retain our titles whenever you weren't paying attention. But aside from all that, there's this one spot that we see it a lot, and I gotta give some love to it because I love spots like that. But the spot where I think, is it Ivar, where he like crushes them with the crossbody on the apron. We saw him do that spot on the outside of the ring. I love when they hit the LED boards, when they make the LED boards glitch a little bit.
Oh yeah, no,
I love that.
Right before the end of the match, yeah, no, like Kofi just, it looked like, yeah, him and Kofi just, destroyed.
Yeah, dude, I love when they add that little extra effect of like of making it glitch.
And I'm sitting here as a video guy going, are they making it glitch, or is somebody like at the control room like hitting a button? You know what I mean? I'm just wondering. I'm like, oh, do they have like a cracked LED, button they can push that looks like all the LEDs?
Well, yeah, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. That's what I'm saying. I like that they add that in there.
Because my God, I guess I'm surprised those LEDs can take that punishment, because that looks like punishment, man. When you have Ivar or Eric, or I think it was Ivar, just slamming his body into poor Kofi Kingston twice. I bought that he was really screwing up the electrical system for us.
Well, that's why they're the professionals, brother. They make it look so good.
Well, yeah, sometimes they do. No,
yeah, all right.
No, the problem with this match, like you said, was that the two heels joined up against the War Raiders, and I kind of saw this happening. Like, I figured it was going to happen. That was my problem with this match in the first place. It's like, this isn't the match I want. I wanted New Day and American Made, because we've already seen New Day and War Raiders. We've seen American Made and War Raiders, and I love that War Raiders are still definitely champion contenders. But I wanted to see what happened when the New Day and American Made had to wrestle now, finally, and maybe that's what we're leading to next. Maybe that's the next thing, but I don't want to get bored with it. I don't know. I need a little more variety in this men's tag team division, I feel like, as well. So
yeah, I don't think anybody's downplaying the talent that's sitting here. I think we just need some more talent to add to it. Look, SmackDown tag division is stacked, absolutely stacked. And there's no reason you can't have some more talent on the Monday Night Raw roster. Look, I think all three of these teams are great.
A Raw version of Frax. You need some new team coming up or something, or a new team, or like I said, do the draft, bring Ray Phoenix over here. But I think, like I said, they want to run both those guys a little longer, just on indie runs for a second. Give Penta at least one more chance at a title before they take him and make him tag champs or something.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if post WrestleMania, that's when we finally maybe get the Lucha Bros tag, or not post WrestleMania, post Money in the Bank, we finally get the Lucha Bros teaming up in some capacity. Because again, if we're getting the draft, I think it's post Money in the Bank. So we'll see what happens with that exactly.
You keep telling me that, Gable and his crew are going to have all gold on them. I'm waiting, dude, because it seems like they do nothing but lose. Like, all of Gable's, from Ivy Nile to American Made to even Gable right now, it seems like they're all losing. They're all taking the pins. The only one winning is El Grande Americano.
Yeah, I would love to see like a vignette or like a video or something where Master Gable sets up a training session with all of his proteges in American Made and brings them somewhere to another land or to like a different place and has them train under El Grande Americano. And Gable says, well, I'm not going with you. I don't need more training. You need the training. And so he sends them off. And when they get there, it's El Grande Americano. They're ready to train Chad Gable's proteges. And then maybe you can even do the funny bit of putting all of them in masks when they come back for at least a little bit.
No, then you'd have to have like El Americano Made or something.
There's something like that. Yeah, it would be something like that. But yeah, I want to see that for sure.
Ivy Americano. All right.
Ivy Americano. The what's brothers in Spanish? I'd have to find the Creed brothers in Spanish. That would be the thing. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So backstage, you see Liv and Raquel walking backstage, presumably to go get her Money in the Bank qualifier match that she mentioned earlier in the night. They run into Io Sky and Kairi Sane, and they have a little bit of bantering back and forth. Kyrie eventually gets in Liv's face and says a bunch of stuff in Japanese. And I really thought that Liv was going to maybe clap back with a little Japanese because she's been filming in Japan, as far as I understand. So I thought maybe they were going to give her a little moment to be like, say this back, and maybe shock Kyrie Sane a little bit. Kyrie eventually does say, "Let's have a match tonight." So I was pumped for this. Liv and Kyrie are two of my favorites.
Dude, so you can't read my handwriting, but on my notes I have right here. It says, "Liv and Kyrie Sane. Casey will be happy."
They're both two of my favorites, man. Look, Kyrie Sane's NXT Black and Gold run was just excellent, great. She hasn't been the same since she's come to the main roster in any iteration that she's been up. And then I've just always loved Liv Morgan in her career. So yeah, you were right. I was happy. We'll get to it in a minute, but I didn't think the match was bad. I thought it was a pretty decent match. I don't think it was a 5-star spectacle or anything, but I thought it was a pretty good match. All right, so out next, Jey Uso is out to cut a little promo. And I made the note here. I think his Raw entrance was longer than Saturday night's main event.
Dude, so. Jey is winning me over like hand over fist with his entrances, dude. I mean, like there's not a cooler cat. I love his audience interactions. He makes so many kids' day. It just makes me happy every time he comes out and he just stops and yeets with 2 or 3 kids, fist bumps them all. I mean, look, I'm loving this championship run. I don't want it to end just for the entrances. I want Jey to be champion forever in some ways, so that this experience, because like I said, I've never seen anybody this over in my life. I think he's matching or outdoing Hogan. So I mean, I've never seen this. Is just incredibly wonderful to watch. That said, I didn't need this promo. I don't know about you. I didn't need this promo. I don't know who it benefited. I thought for me, this Jey looked bored as hell through the promo with Gunther. Like, I've already done this. We've done this. It's, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like there's no, like, I don't know how you build the June 7th match or the June 9th match on Raw for them, because we've already seen it. We've already had like the most amazing build to WrestleMania, So this all just feels like, I don't know, especially now that they're being civil to each other. Like, you've got Gunther, like, somewhat giving compliments and trying to give advice or something to Jey, and Jey's just like, whatever. I don't know. This promo for me was painful. Maybe it pays off in some ways, but I just didn't really, I didn't really vibe with it, Casey. I don't know.
No, I gotta be real with you. I agree, and the internet is kind of agreeing with you as well. This felt like just a bad promo by Jey Uso, if I'm being real.
Well, all right, so I know who they put it on. If they put it on Jey, if they put it on Gunther, if they just put it on the fact that it existed in general,
No, I mean, if you go back and watch Jey's promos, like when he gets in a rough spot in terms of, like, I wrote it down. So first of all, I want to point out what you said about Gunther, maybe saying some pseudo nice or kind of nice things to Jey. He said, all of the qualities about Jey make him a great person, but a terrible champion. And I think that's probably what's going to be the downfall of Jey Uso's title reign, is maybe he does let his guard down a little too much around people he trusts, aka Sami Zayn. But maybe he does let his guard down around people he trusts a little too much, and that does cost him his championship in the long run. But I did also write down, again, I'm no professional, but I've been out in front of crowds, and, you and I have both done public speaking, and we've watched people speak in public, and we know what it looks like when someone forgets their speech or forgets their lines or forgets what they were going to say. And it looked like Jey forgot his lines or forgot what he was going to say. And if you watch Jey's promos, he always, there's this one thing he does when he starts to trip up. He kind of like starts playing to the crowd because it gets him a little more hyped up, I'm sure. It gets him back in the groove of things. But you could notice where he started it started with the, "Are you done?" And I hate that, dude. He does that thing where he's just like, he kind of almost whispers it. He's like,
yeah, no, that's why.
Are you done?
I couldn't tell if he was playing in English. I don't know enough about Jey Uso, maybe quote unquote botched promos, to know that this might be, one of his saves. I just felt like I said, that's where I got the boredom from it. Like why you out here going, "Are you done? Is this,
yeah,
are we doing this
well
again?"
And that's the thing. It's like when Jey first did the, like, "Are you done?" He did it with some energy and some passion behind it, and the crowd really bit into it the first few times he did it. But it's like I think Jay is really good in moments where he gets to act and he doesn't necessarily have to have a microphone in his hands. Like if you go back and you watch a lot of the Bloodline stuff, a lot of the best acting that Jay Uso did was when he did not have a microphone in his hands, when we really had to read his face for the emotion. And I feel like sometimes when you put the microphone in Jay Uso's hands and you ask him to say a little too much, sometimes it gets to the point of like, okay, what am I saying next? And then you saw when he slowly started to hit that, he started pandering to the crowd, and then you could tell that his go home line, I'm going to call it that, I don't know if that's the actual terminology, but the line that was to signify that we are bringing this promo to an end was that he was going to make Gunther tap out again at Money in the Bank. And you could tell leading up to that line that he dropped, he maybe either forgot what to say or didn't exactly know what to say and was kind of just trying to freestyle it, and it didn't really hit the marks that it needed to hit for me. And so I agree with you. I felt like this promo didn't really help anybody, because then if you watch Gunther's face, right, Jay's kind of struggling a little bit, at least what we can presume. Then he says he's going to make him tap out. Then he says it's 4 letters, 1 word, and then he does the yeet. Yeah. And whenever he says the whole I'm going to make you tap out again, Gunther's face goes from like ha ha ha, you don't know what to say, to like all of a sudden it drops. And it's like, are you really telling me that after all this time, after almost 2 months, or after a little over a month now, that a mediocre promo up to that one line is enough to just shut Gunther down totally? I just don't buy it. And this promo just didn't do it for me. It didn't. It just wasn't it for me. It wasn't.
Yeah. So yeah, no, 100% not sure the purpose of it, besides you trying to hype up a match. But like I said, you can't hype up everything with Jay, because you got too much going on with Jay right now, between tag matches and title defenses and everything else. It's like, anyways, all right.
Yeah, so we're both in agreement there. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I don't think it benefited anyone. Bleacher Report gave it a C+, and they're pretty generous sometimes. So that should go to show you. A little backstage, I say backstage, but a little promo they did for us. Cody Rhodes has a new podcast apparently, and the first
I don't want to talk about that.
Well, I think it's going to be cool. You know, first guest is his wife, Brandy Rhodes.
Right.
And I think it's going to be a cool little thing. It's sponsored by Wheatley, because Wheatley's like his brand or whatever. And yeah, I don't know. It's a weekly listen that I'll throw into the rotation, because look, I told you guys in the group text about Stephanie McMahon's new show, and I think her show is really good. So if I can get I like hearing the realistic side of these talents, and like really getting to hear some of the backstage stuff. And like the little snippet they showed us was him talking to his wife about how he was nervous to come back to WWE for WrestleMania 38, because like, what if they boo me? And it's like, you don't really think about that sometimes, when it's like, oh yeah, we had one of these craziest moments in WrestleMania history ever when Cody came back against Seth. But it's like, I never really thought about the fact that, was Cody nervous that he was going to get booed? Like, was he nervous that he wasn't going to feel welcome? So it's like just little stuff like that. I'm not saying that I'm the biggest Cody Rhodes fan in the world, because I'm not. I like the guy, but I think if nothing else, it's just more wrestling content for us to digest throughout the week. That will be a nice little fun listen. And I'm excited for the first episode. It's dropping tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll probably listen to it, but yeah, no, like I don't. Cody, just come on our show. What are you doing? You don't need your own show. Just come on.
Well, hey, we keep growing, and it'll happen eventually. We've interviewed WWE stars before. It'll happen again. All right. So up next, a match that we had thrown together based on the prior events that happened backstage. We get Liv Morgan versus Kairi Sane. Again, 2 of my favorites going head to head. I thought this was a really fun match. Eventually, Roxanne Perez comes out and tries to make the save, and then her arguing with Raquel takes Liv's focus away from the match for half a second, and that causes her to get rolled up for the quick win, or not the quick win, but the quick pin out of nowhere. And then, you know, Liv and Raquel looking very frustrated. Roxanne with her hands on her head like, crap, I messed up. But you know, part of me wonders is if we're going to find out eventually that this was just all on purpose by Roxy, and that she did mean to cost Liv the match and embarrass her a little bit in her returning match, might I add. But yeah, I thought it was a fun match. Look, again, not a 5-star spectacle, but a first time ever occurrence between these two women. They had never met one-on-one in the ring before. And it was a nice win. It was a nice way to get Kairi Sane a nice win in her return, because you could argue that she shouldn't have eaten the pin in that triple threat match. We all think that Zoe probably would have eaten it prior to her injury. So this was a nice way to get Kairi Kyrie a good win over the current tag champ, former world champion, and really cement some of that momentum for Kyrie Sane going forward. But I mean, other than that, what did you think?
No, there's not much to take away. Like, so this is really a storyline match as much as it is getting knocking some rust off for Kyrie Sane, because she looked a little rusty. Obviously, we don't know how that match was supposed to look last week with Rhea and Zoe Stark because of Zoe Stark's injury. But, knock a little rust off of Kyrie Sane. Liv Morgan can take a pin, ain't no thing. She's so over, it doesn't matter. But like I said, there's more storyline thing I felt like for the Judgment Day. I don't know, it looked like Roxanne Perez was genuinely trying to help, but at the same time, every other time I feel like she's working for Finn to break up this team. And we got what we wanted there, because Liv is now upset with Raquel, which I did not expect. That was one partnership that I did not see blowing up if the Judgment Day blew up, was Liv and Raquel. So to see that start to fray at the edges is the most interesting part, because now, like, I don't know where because now technically Liv and Dom could just go off together themselves, maybe, get rid of Raquel.
Well, remember what I told you a while back. I told you how I saw the dissolution or the dissolvement of this group going. Is I think Raquel and Carlito are going to go off and do their own thing. They're going to be like Yeah. So they're going to go off and do their own thing. So eventually, we do have to see that split between Liv and Raquel.
But I guess when you said that, I just didn't think there'd be a split. They would split. You know what I mean? I felt like.
Well, I think that we're eventually going to see the tension between them get to like a boiling point, and then they're going to have a tag title match where they lose those titles, then that's going to be
it. Yeah.
But then I see Finn and JD going off on and doing their own thing. And here's the thing. If they decide not to do Roxanne going off with Finn and JD McDonough, I could see a world where maybe Roxanne was brought in by Finn to really just destroy the group from the inside. But you know what SummerSlam is this year? What year is it? It's 2025. SummerSlam this year is going to be Dominic Mysterio's 20th anniversary in a WWE ring. SummerSlam 2005. It was Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero in that custody of Dominic ladder match, because they had that whole story going on that Eddie was Dom's real father, so on and so forth. Am I crazy that 20 years later, maybe Roxanne from the inside starts to develop real feelings for Dom? And then at SummerSlam, instead of Dom having to make the choice, we get another custody of Dominic ladder match. Or it doesn't even have to be a ladder match, but we get another. And it doesn't have to be like, they don't have to say like custody of Dominic, but it could be like, the winner gets Dom. And then it's Liv versus Roxanne Perez at SummerSlam with the prize being Dominic Mysterio. I don't think it's crazy. 20 years later, the story writes itself, No,
it's not. It's not. We'll see. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot happening here. I can go 17 different directions. Like I said, I could have Liv and Raquel, like I said, losing to Becky and Roxanne. I could have it go 17 different directions. But right now, I'm just happy. But something has to happen. Like, it can't be like the Austin Theory, Grayson Waller thing where we're still waiting, and I don't think they're going to leave it wait, because obviously these guys are a little bigger probably on their money-making chart in the WWE, so I'm sure they're going to keep the storyline going, but it's all going to fall apart. It's just going to be who's going with Finn and who's not, and then what's left in the wake.
Well, I'm staking my claim right now. SummerSlam, we're getting a Liv versus Roxanne with Dominic on the line match in some sort of way, so I'm staking my claim.
Third eye.
All right, so we did eventually get a Rhea Ripley Money in the Bank vignette, her talking about winning the Money in the Bank. She wasn't there this week. So talking about winning Money in the Bank and being on top of the women's division again. And also, I didn't, maybe I just was a step away or wasn't paying attention, but maybe this was also something that was played on the foreign Netflix during a commercial break. But did you see the Gable and Vikingo backstage segment? Because I missed that when I was watching Raw. Yeah, so we'll go into it then. So Chad Gable is backstage with American Made, and he tells them to go off and try to reconcile them losing to the New Day and try to get another tag match. But he said that he has something from El Grande Americano that he has to bring to Adam Pearce, the general manager. And as he walks off, he runs into Vikingo, and they run into each other backstage. He starts yapping at Vikingo. Vikingo says a few things in Spanish and basically says save it for Money in the Bank when we're or for Worlds Collide when we're face to face. And then they just kind of separate, and then AJ Styles, of all people, attacks Gable and then says, let this be a lesson to you and your friend El Grande Americano not to get involved in my matches anymore going forward, because he got involved in the match last week.
Right, yeah, El Grande did, yeah.
So
yeah.
a lot of layers being thrown right there that I didn't see on the original broadcast.
No, I didn't see that at all. No, what are you doing to us, WWE? What are you doing?
And so when you didn't bring that up, I figured that it was one of those, because I saw Santi's app react to it, and of course he's Canadian, so he gets he doesn't get the commercials on Netflix, he gets all the extra stuff. And so when I saw he reacted to that, I was like, where the hell did this even come from? Huh. So I had to write down notes for you.
All right, yeah, no, I've seen nothing on that, so that's the first I've heard. No, okay.
So yeah, I'm really excited for Worlds Collide. I think it's going to be fun.
And the Rhea promo was again wasn't really needed. I think it was more that Rhea just wasn't on Raw and they wanted to put her face on it.
100%.
It went nowhere, and it wasn't anything we needed to hear that she hadn't.
You know what it is. It's all the disappointed kids who are like, "Oh, I didn't get to see Rhea tonight," who haven't said anything to their parents, and then they see that Rhea Ripley vignette, and they're like, "Mom, can I go get a Rhea Ripley T-shirt from the shop?" From the shop while we're here, and they're like, damn it, I guess I'll go spend the $40 on the T-shirt. Yeah, let's go get the Rhea Ripley shirt, even though she's not here.
Though she did call it, I'll admit, I don't know, I'm sure she's coined it before, but she did call it "Mommy in the Bank."
So, oh yeah, so that's the thing. They always throw nicknames onto certain people if they win the briefcase. "Mommy in the Bank" is just perfect. It works perfectly.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought that's the one thing to take away from the promo was "Mommy in the Bank." All right.
Yeah, I figured you'd like that. And again, I still maintain that she's going to win it and cash in on Io at Evolution 2, especially now that we know that we have an official date. So I wouldn't be amazed if that's where we get it. But up next, speaking of the excellent women's division we get a promo that I really didn't expect to see these two this close to each other yet. I thought maybe we were going to get a little time in between, but they did make this match official. At Money in the Bank, we're going to get for the Women's Intercontinental Championship. Lyra is defending against Becky again, and we get a promo between the two, and I thought that Becky kind of sounded like a hypocrite in a lot of this promo. It felt like Becky was like, well, I was done with you after that match, and it was like, well, you were the one that kind of attacked and provoked, and she made the comment about Lyra's weird looking fiance and her hot looking husband, and then when Lyra clapped back, Becky was like, see, you're the one that made this personal. It's like, no, Becky, you literally just made it personal. And so Becky sounded a lot like a really loud yelling hypocrite in this promo. And while I thought the promo between them was really, really good, and I think Lyra is showing us even more and more that she is indeed coming out of her shell and getting more comfortable on the mic, I just really thought some of the points were like, okay, but you did kind of like, it just didn't make Becky look like the smartest heel, and maybe that's not really what you're going for, but we did get the added stakes added on to the match at Money in the Bank, where if Becky loses, she will never go for the championship as long as Lyra is champion. And if Lyra loses, she has to raise Becky Lynch's hand as the victor. And I really liked the line that Lyra dropped at the end, where she said something along the lines of, I have no problem raising the hand of a better woman than me. That just hasn't been you yet. And I really like that line because she is 2-0 against Becky.
Right.
And the only way that Becky's been able to get the upper hand is by attacking her. And so I really like this. And I got to be honest, before I let you take it, I really think that means Becky's winning at Money in the Bank. Yeah, I think that she's going to win.
No, like I said, I think she wins at Money in the Bank. And I think if she's going to join Cody's faction, that's when she does it, or she does it very...
You mean Seth's faction, sorry.
Seth's faction, my bad, Seth's faction.
You're good.
She does it then, or at some point very close to then. Look, this promo didn't do much except the fact that two things. A, where's Bailey? That's my one thing. Like where is the Jay Gunther promo? Didn't do anything for me. Jay's got enough drama going on and whatnot that I didn't need it. Whereas I need this to continue to build Lyra and Becky to their next match or to whatever's going to happen. Because right now, I don't know what else is happening with Lyra and her title. So we've got to keep this going to keep interest there. And they are great against each other on the mic, even if they don't make sense. It's just fun hearing them just bitch each other out. So, but where is the other competition? Where is Bailey at to come in? Who else is a threat to this title? Because now that we've made this title a thing and we've made it good, we've got to have somebody else want it. Like, I mean, are we bringing Kairi Sane up to want to take it? Is that what we're bringing her back for that? Like who are we bringing into this title conversation? Because it can't just be Becky and Lyra. because then we're going to get as bored as we're getting with the men's tag team division. So yeah, something's got to happen. But at the same time, so like this promo didn't do anything for me, but I understand why it existed, because we got to keep hype on Lyra. We got to keep hype on Becky, on this match for what they're doing. But they got to figure this out for when Becky wins the Money in the Bank, because what's next then? Like, who else is challenging for it? Does Bayley come back by then? And even if it's just Bayley, I need more than just Bayley. You know what I'm saying? So
I really feel like we're headed towards that triple threat that we kind of been talking about for a few weeks now, and probably at SummerSlam. Maybe Becky or Bayley comes back after Becky wins it at Money in the Bank, because I think as of now we both have that happening. And maybe Bayley comes back, and then Lyra's like, "Hey, I'm glad you're back, and I think you deserve to get your get back at Becky, but I just lost my title, and I also want a rematch."
Yeah, and that's the only match I've lost against Becky.
Exactly.
It was only because of X, Y, and Z probably, or something,
Right. And so I still think we're headed towards the triple threat, and then maybe that creates a little more tension. But I mean, it obviously will create a little more tension between Bayley and Lyra, and then maybe all of a sudden Bayley's like, you didn't even like try to figure out who attacked me, like before you found Becky as my replacement, or so on and so forth. So there's a few different ways that I could go. I think that we're still getting the triple threat match. I did also like a few key lines from the promo. Becky was, when talking about Backlash, said, "You won a match, I won the night," in terms of like she walked away as the person standing tall, even though she lost the match. And then Lyra saying, quote, "Your hot husband? You mean the only talented thing about you?" And so I thought that was pretty funny too. Again, I wrote down emotional and personal promo.
No,
I thought they did a good job, but what did it do? Like you said,
yeah, it was a good bitch fest. But I mean, I gotta get somebody else in this rivalry besides just Bayley. Like I said, maybe this is what Roxanne Perez is going to get into. Maybe some of the other women who have come up. I'm not sure who else is up. Like I said, because they took Julia to SmackDown, I think, right?
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, we got to keep building this, and like, it can't just be Becky and Lyra. Right now it can be, but we've got to get some more ladies into this one. So
I agree. All right. So backstage, before we get to the main event, we see Sami Zayn making his way out.
And Karrion Kross, baby. Woo! There's your 30-second Karrion Kross clip.
We got our 30-second Karrion Kross clip, and you know what he says? I didn't think too much of the segment until Sami was walking away, and Karrion said, as he's walking off, he said, "You're never going to be world champion, right?"
Right, that was great.
And when he said that, I was like, it's all coming together. Sami's hearing the voices. He wants to be world champion so bad, and we know based off the result tonight, maybe those voices are a little louder all of a sudden. And so I think that Karrion Kross is doing his job perfectly, and he came back and said, "I'm going to handle you later." And now maybe we get Karrion and Sami next week.
Oh yeah, no, we're getting them soon. I don't know if it's next week, but
maybe Money in the Bank. I don't really know yet. I could take that on Money in the Bank. I'd be happy with that.
I mean,
as long as it does something going forward.
I need Karrion Kross to have a match before that, though. I need next week Karrion Kross to have a match against somebody, and I need it not to be like the pre-Raw match or whatever that is that he had, that
main event.
Yeah, the main event match he had like 4 nights ago or whatever that. Or
right.
Because look, I
tell you what, I'd be okay without a match as long as he like maybe attacks Sami and has like a little bit of a beat down on Sami, and can at least get people who aren't as excited about Karrion as you and I, maybe get them a little more hyped up for this match, because it deserves some hype.
See, I want Karrion Kross, because ever since you've been talking about Sami Zayn going lone wolf, you know who the lone wolf comic book character is, right? Who's the most lone wolf comic book character?
Oh God, you're really putting me on the spot.
I know.
Is it Wolverine?
It's Wolverine, exactly.
Yeah. I got one.
So if Sami Zayn's going to go lone wolf Wolverine, who's going to be in his ear screwing with his head but Sabretooth? And that's why I could see it be a great little Karrion Kross, the Sabretooth to Sami Zayn's Wolverine.
Wow. I don't hate that.
Where at the same time, there's a weird connection between the two, but a hatred at the same, like they're bonded by hate, like they're going to have a match, but at the end, it's going to be like the whole time, maybe Karrion's like, "I'm the only one who cares about you," as he like body slams Sami Zayn again. "I'm the only one who's here for you."
What we could see, because I think you're on the right track, and maybe we see something along the lines of, in the match, Karrion really forces Sami to like unlock a level of like brutality or
then
something like that.
Sami goes full berserker, gets the pin against Karrion Kross, but then like it's one of those, like I said, that after the match, I feel like They formed that friendship we were talking about. We thought, well, maybe that's what Damian and Drew do. They beat the hell out of each other so much.
Maybe.
Now they've coalesced. I don't see that happening with Damian and Drew. I could see Karrion and Sammy. I could see Sammy, them beating the hell out of each other. Sammy finding a new level, getting the pin, and then like him and Karrion are some weird thing. It's not a duo, but it's a thing.
Hey, and I do want to go back a few weeks because I want to give you your credit where your credit is due, because we finally got an answer to a question that we have had for weeks now. And that was, what did Karrion Kross want Sami Zayn to do when he got the offer from Paul Heyman? And Karrion Kross finally admitted last night that Sami should have jumped ship and got the championship match. Yep. But then again, maybe we find out that that's all a manipulation tactic by Kross to get even more in Sami's head. We don't know. And it's so crazy to me how WWE just doesn't do anything with this guy, and they know he's going to be some of the most captivating television all week in 30 seconds of screen time.
That's what I'm saying. In 30 seconds, he's more captivating than, that whole Uso Gunther promo.
I agree with you. All right, so from that, we're going into the main event, our final triple threat of the night, our final Money in the Bank qualifying match of the night. We get Sami Zayn going up against Finn Balor and Seth freaking Rollins. Now, look, I thought this match cooked. I thought even we missed some of it with commercial breaks, of course, but I thought even what we saw of the match, it was fast paced. It was high flying. It was hard hitting. And I thought all three of these guys have wrestled each other more times than we can ever even think about. Prior to WWE, all the stuff they've done in NXT, all the stuff they've done on the main roster, they know each other so well. And I think it really showed in this match. And I was thinking about it like way earlier in the night about how maybe the first triple threat match we got between Dragon Lee, Penta, and Chad Gable was maybe the best match of the night. And then they come out and put this match on. And this, I think, was match of the night. I want to highlight the beautiful sunset flip powerbomb that Sami Zayn hit on Seth. Not only did Sami hit that perfectly, but I thought Seth took it perfectly. It really feels, Seth is just a pro in terms of like making moves look so good and like they hurt so bad. And I mean, part of it is that they do hurt, but he is just so good at making other people look good and not to his detriment at the same time. Seth is a consummate pro. He's one of the best in the world. So I thought that was really fun. I really loved the superplex into the frog splash combo. We've seen that happen quite a few times in triple threat matches. But yeah, eventually we do get Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed showing up to stop Sami from getting the win. Uso eventually shows up to kind of even out the odds. And then who else but Dirty Dom? He tries to come in and he does try to help Finn. At least we can assume his intentions were pure. And I think Santi said it. This is the traditional Judgment Day way of creating dissent. Somebody slides a chair in and the chair, goes against whoever they intended it to be. But then the chair comes in, Finn goes to crawl to grab it. Seth hits the stomp on the chair. 1, 2, 3. Seth is going to Money in the Bank. And then, of course, your favorite part of the entire night. After the fact, it looks like we're going to go get a little bit of a beat down. And then who else but CM Punk? His music hits. He is out there. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker run up to the ramp trying to take him out before he can get to Seth. And he sneaks in, hits the GTS on Seth before he escapes out of the crowd. And then that's our week of Monday Night Raw. So with that little recap, Di, let me get your opinions.
All right. Well, let's see. No, match entirely was a great match. A lot of fun. Like you said, Sami hitting moves, Finn hitting a bunch of moves. I mean, I'm surprised, that Finn can't get a win. Maybe, he wasn't going to win this one, but it feels like Finn hasn't won anything in a while, and he's way too good to be on this losing streak. If he wasn't having so much fun destroying Judgment Day, I'd be worried about Finn and what they're doing with him. But obviously they have an idea. Dom finally comes out. We've talked about how Dom has been absent from every one of the Finn, JD McDonough type matches the last couple weeks, but he comes out for this one and ends up being the reason, or the final reason Finn gets pinned. Jey Uso helping out Sami, what we expected, at least for a week. I mean, you can't even have him gone for the whole bloody show. You know what I mean? If you're going to bring Punk out, why did you not bring him out at the beginning? Why did you wait till the very end? So I didn't like that. This like Punk's becoming like a superhero. Like you can't take him out. Like no matter what you do, he keeps popping back up.
Who did you liken CM Punk to in terms of the Marvel Civil War storyline? Is he Tony Stark?
No, he's Captain America. No, he's Captain America.
How do you kill Captain America?
I don't know, man, but
exactly. How do you
actually,
kill CM Punk?
They do kill Captain America for a little bit, then they bring him back because you can't kill everybody forever. But
yeah, of course not.
The thing is, at the end of Civil War, Captain America is the ultimate loser. Tony Stark / Seth Rollins feels like a winner, but is the winner, but doesn't feel like a winner. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm just saying, for this one night, I would have rather it ended with Seth just standing there with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed on each side of the the ring posts, on the floor, standing over the beaten bodies of Jay and Sammy, and then you go to black. I would have rather and Paul Heyman just completely lose, and then you go to black.
I actually don't hate that. I think that would have been a good finish.
But I mean, you just keep bringing CM Punk, and I feel like you just keep stalling the start. It's like whenever somebody tells you how big and bad they are, and then somebody hits them in the face and they start crying. And then they start telling you how big and bad they are again, and somebody hits them in the face again, they start crying. It's like, I'm never going to believe that this faction is going to actually be powerful if you keep bringing up ways that they get stopped within like the same episode, So I thought after Saturday Night main event, when Bronson Reed takes CM Punk through the pile, or through the seating, the barriers, and then after Braun and Seth hold both ends like they're quartering the man, and Bronson Reed frog splashes on top of him, or whatever the Bronson or Reed frog splash is called, I thought they'd at least give Punk a week off to pretend like he was hurt,
Yeah, I thought we were at least going to get the week off too, but I do disagree slightly. I agree that I would have kept Punk off TV for a week, but if you were going to have him come out, why have him come out at the beginning when it's 3v1 as opposed to catching Seth off guard? I think in a way, him coming out at the end of the show, I'm not saying more so than him being off the TV for a week, but I think that him coming out at the end as opposed to at the beginning actually sells Bronson's attack even a little more, because he couldn't face them 3-on-1 because he was hurt. So the only way he could get a one-up on Seth was by, getting the stronger force out of the way, and then being able to sneak up and hit Seth with a little cheap shot before he runs off and nurses his health for an extra week or so. So he doesn't have to take any moves. So and he was still a little wrapped up and stuff. So there were signs that he was still selling the hurt that he experienced that Saturday night's main event. But I don't necessarily agree with having him come out at the beginning of the show, because then it just would have been a 3-on-1 beatdown, and you would have had to count on Sammy and Jay having your back, and it did pop the crowd a little more. You don't expect him to be there, and then he shows up and everybody goes nuts. Everybody goes ballistic.
And you're right. If he was going to come in, they did do it the one way to do it, where they quote unquote do the misdirection, and he comes in from behind. And then as soon as he hits the GTS, you've got him running like a pansy,
yeah,
into the crowd, because he ain't gonna deal with it, so at least they did it that way, and they didn't have him do a GTS and then stand there and GTS Bronson Reed and stand there and then GTS Braun Breaker and then stand there overall. At least they didn't do that. But I just feel like we haven't had a full. I need to see that full villain from Seth, and he hasn't been able to have it. He got close, with when they both got to stomp, or when he stomped Sami Zayn after the Braun Breaker match, 2 weeks ago. But otherwise, it just feels like they just keep hindering him, And
maybe that's just because this is just me guessing, right? Just trying to look forward into the future. Maybe that's just because we haven't seen the absolute evil that is Seth yet. Maybe we don't see that until we get that final member, or because we talked about all these little things, we don't have a name of the group yet. He still has the same music that gets the crowd pumped up. We are assuming there's going to be maybe one more member. So there's all these little extra steps that we have to hit before I think we unlock the vile villain that is Seth Rollins down the line, that will be the bane of the existence of every babyface on Monday Night Raw, because they're just going to run roughshod. If you go back and you look a little bit, I told you about that Evolution documentary I watched recently on YouTube or whatever, where they showed a little bit of what Evolution was, and then what Evolution was with just Triple H and Ric Flair when Randy Orton and Batista got hurt and they were nursing themselves on the shelf. So it wasn't the absolute level of evil and brutality that Evolution was going to be known as, because we just haven't hit that level yet. So I think that maybe, if I had to guess, I think that your wants are warranted because that's what WWE wants you to want. Like, because they're slowly getting to what we will eventually see is Seth going to be the most evil guy in the WWE. And like, we're going to be I think we're going to be rivaling this run that he's going to go to, his character at least, to Roman Reigns as the tribal chief. Because at least in Roman Reigns, in his mind, it was a birthright. He was always supposed to be where he was. With Seth, he just wants it, so he's taking it. And he doesn't care who he hurts along the way. And I think that we're slowly seeing, because you got to think, Seth was a babyface earlier this year.
You're probably right. I probably want a faster burn than what they're going to give me. But I wasn't, like you said, I wasn't expecting that bloody title shot with Jay, like second week of the whole bloody thing, So I don't know what speed we're driving at.
I agree. But I think the title shot maybe was just a way to like wet the palate of the fans and make them want it down the line. And then that's a way that you can keep Seth directly out of the world title picture, but have him hover around it. His wants are always known. Like, we always know that's what he wants. But I think that was a way to like get it out of the way early and then have it to where both guys look strong because it was a shoddy finish, right? And now you can revisit it down the line where maybe Seth can finally win it. Because I think Seth or Sammy maybe are the two guys right now that may be my favorites to take that title from Jay. We'll just have to see where we get to it. But I didn't mind Punk coming out at the end, but I agree with you. I think that if this was the way they were going to do it, this was the perfect way to do it. So overall, I thought Monday Night Raw as a whole was pretty good. Definitely, I don't think the best show of the year. I think funny enough, last week was one that got a lot of criticism and maybe was one of the better Monday Night Raws of all year. So I just think that you have to take ratings and the way that people feel about things with a grain of salt. And it's really about how it progresses the storyline for you and the way that you interpret the storyline and what it does for you. Matt and I talk about all the time back and forth about how we see things going. And that's one of the fun things about wrestling is you might not interpret things the same way that the person that you're hanging out with interprets it. And that's a fun way to throw ideas back and forth. And I think that WWE, if nothing else, is giving us a really nice platform to throw a lot of what ifs back and forth to each other. And I think it's been really fun.
Yeah, no, like I said, this was a good episode, and that it was short. It was fast paced, it felt like, and it felt like it was very, very storyline. Like I said, we're going to Money in the Bank next. We know that. And it feels like we're actually kind of building towards that on purpose. Whereas, like, I don't know how much build we had, like, to Saturday Night Main Event, So at least it feels like a purposeful build.
I'm starting to feel like Saturday Night Main Events are just, at this point, supposed to be precursors to the next event coming up. Like, we just have to treat them as hype-up events, basically.
I would rather them just be good matches, because I felt like last Saturday Night Main Event was way a lot of story that we didn't, that the average fan's not going to get, and the average fan's going to sit there, watch all these commercials, get all the story, and it's like, just give average fan great matches.
Yeah, I think they just have to work on the pacing of it all.
Like Saturday Night Main Event, like this Rodrigo, or like the Worlds Collide, King, what is it?
Vikingo.
Rodrigo, Vikingo. No, Vikingo Gable. That's going to be, we can all already foresee that's probably going to be an amazing match. That would probably be a great Saturday Night Main Event match. There's not a lot of storyline there. You don't need much more besides, this guy doesn't like luchadors. This guy's an amazing luchador. Let's put them together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wish they would just find like the most awesome matches, and those are Saturday Night Main Event matches. And you don't really progress the storyline of Saturday Night Main Event. You just don't,
I just feel like they have to. There's always one big key point that we criticize every Saturday night's main event. The first one was Jay and Gunther and the match placement, and it's like, why are these matches happening here? The second one is like, okay, we felt like no real storyline happened, and then this time it was like, cool, we got a lot of storyline and the matches were cool, but the production was shit. Right. Like, we can't find the perfect middle ground, and it's like, come on, WWE, you have shown us consistently that you can find the middle ground on weekly programmed television. Like, you have shown us you can do it. I just don't understand why Saturday night's main event is so hard to grasp, especially when you've run WWE TV at 2 hours pretty consistently for a long time. Before SmackDown went to 3, it was 2, and now it's going back to 2 hours very soon. So it's like, you've consistently run 2 hours, and it hasn't been that bad on the production side. I just don't understand what happened there. But all right, going into just a few rumors before we get out of here. This one you thought was really funny because I think it's really funny. I think it's hilarious, actually, because part it's Dave Meltzer But on Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said he believes that Bronson Reed was added to Seth Rollins' group so he could take pins in the group's losses instead of Rollins or Braun Breaker. Now, up front, that doesn't feel like rocket science, right? Obviously, he is the quote-unquote lesser popular name of the three, but I think looking at Bronson Reed's addition to the group, anything other than this is a guy that WWE was really high on, and they're obviously even higher on him now because they're pairing him with arguably the biggest guy in the company, I think this takes just a little silly to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're gonna have one of those three guys take a pin, it's
obviously right.
It's probably Bronson Reed, but at the same time, storyline wise, if it's just these three guys, any one of them could take a pin. You know, because it would further the storyline and whatnot. I don't think Bronson Reed's so far out of the title picture or something like that, or that he's solely there to be the pin eater. You know, so I think the take is funny because I hadn't thought about that as being the reason that you'd include Bronson Reed. You know, like if you told me they brought on Austin Theory to eat pins, I'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense for some reason. You know, but it's just for Bronson Reed, it doesn't make as much. I mean, it does to a degree, but I don't see him eating a bunch of pins. I don't see these guys getting a lot of pins. I feel like there being a lot of DQs in matches that they don't win. And then I can see, like I said, every once in a while, one of them taking a pin to further a story. Like I said, if Braun gets pinned by, Roman or something, then...
Or CM Punk,
CM Punk, yeah. Or Seth gets pinned by CM Punk, boom,
But here's my thing. Even if in this weird, bizarre universe, that WWE sat down and they were like, all right, we're bringing in Bronson Reed, but he's going to be the guy that eats majority of the pins. You have already shown us that this is your number one faction on Monday Night Raw, period. Probably in the whole company right now. You've already shown us that Seth Rollins is arguably your number one company guy in the entire company. The future is Braun Breaker. When you consider the atmosphere of the talent that these guys are going to be surrounded by, who's Bronson Reed going to be eating pins by? CM Punk? Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, like he's going to be taking pins from the main event of the main eventers. So like, sure, if he eats a few pins, whatever. And if you look on him as the totem pole in the pecking order, is he at the bottom? Sure. But when you look at the fact that Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins are ahead of him, that's not saying much. So like, is he going to take some pins? Sure. But he's going to take a lot of pins from future Hall of Famers. And so then when it's his time to finally step up, again, let's not forget where he was last year before he got that really bad ankle injury in the War Games cage. He was being surrounded by main eventers already. He was in that main event picture. So I think that this is, again, a silly take because that would imply that everything that they did for Bronson beforehand was just to get him to go and eat pins. And I just don't buy into that. If Bronson would have stayed healthy, I think that he would be the favorite to be winning Money in the Bank right now and will probably be a world champion by the end of this year. He would probably be my favorite to be taking the championship off of Jey Uso.
Hey, look, we got like 6 months left of the year. I don't think Bronson Reed takes 4 pins in the next 6 months. I think my over under number is 4. So all right, you let us know in the comments. You think Bronson Reed takes more or less than 4 pins going forward?
Yeah, let us know your over under.
What's your over under on the pins? Yeah.
All right, and the next one, again, something that you and I are not going to be too well versed in, but I thought it's something cool because I do have chronic pains, like similar to like a lot of these wrestlers do. But WWE held a mandatory Zoom meeting for all contracted talent recently, per PW Insider. Newer medical treatments like platelet-rich plasma, or PRP, and stem cell therapy were discussed in what was described as an informational session designed to help wrestlers make educated decisions about managing injuries and long-term health. Now, look, you've heard a lot of guys talk about this stuff, like Edge, now known as Cope, over in AEW, talked a lot about the stem cell therapy that he got in his neck. Rey Mysterio talked a lot about it. If you go listen to his most recent interview with Chris Van Vliet, he talked a lot about getting stem cell research done in his knees and his legs. And look, man, I'm all for more science and helping these guys stay in the ring longer. It used to be a really big deal if guys were wrestling consistently on a high level basis into their 40s. And now it feels like it's the norm for the number one guys in the company to be in their 40s and still, working into their 50s. CM Punk is approaching 50. John Cena is on the other side of 50. Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins are nearing 40 years old. So if this is going to help guys stay in the game even longer, I'm all for it. But I just thought it was something cool to mention and to talk about because we've heard a lot of guys talking about it. And so who knows, maybe WWE could be one of the leading pioneers on really integrating this into sports medicine.
No, I think that's the key right there is what you hit on the end. It's that WWE is being proactive. They're informing their athletes about options and whatnot, and they're looking at things, and they're not being closed-minded. So, and they're not requiring it either. So it's like, we are going to do this. So if somebody is hesitant or skeptical, they're not required. This is about options, to be informed about options and ways that things are improving. Like I said, we've seen everybody from wrestlers to Peyton Manning in football. We're pretty sure Peyton Manning took them stem cells, fixed that neck. Pretty sure old Peyton Manning. And I'm pretty sure if you ask Pat McAfee, he'd be for it too. So yeah, no, this is great news in that we all want everybody to be healthy. We'd love to see, and science tends to start either with the military or with athletes. That's where we find things, We either find great improvements, either trying to make ourselves better in defense or to try to make ourselves better in athletics. So hopefully this trickles down and it ends up being that we find treatments for all sorts of people on a regular basis who just have, like you said, chronic pain and whatnot of any kind, and that we can make it affordable and find ways to alleviate those problems. But yeah, no, this is all just, I feel like good news. So.
Yeah, and it'd be great for younger athletes too. Like, how many athletes do you know tore their ACL in high school and just weren't the same after that? Maybe still continued to play sports, but then by the time their college career came to an end, they're like, man, I got my degree, so I at least have a field to go work in, but my knees are shot at the age of 25. So it could be something that's really pivotal to our future generations. And as a dad, I appreciate that too. Last thing, and then we're out of here. TNA held their own meetings for their TV tapings on Saturday. Talent were given a memo announcing $100 fines for instances where slaps are used without an agent's approval or for any throat slashing gesture. The meaning was also to express unhappiness that previous memos had leaked. Then someone leaked that info and the new memo to Fightful Select. So part of this meeting was, hey, stop leaking the memos, and that memo got leaked. So I don't know, man. I don't know how this is beneficial to really anybody. Feels like and again, I don't know what's going on backstage, but it really feels like a morale killer in some ways, especially towards a company that has really been on the up and up since they've announced their partnership with WWE, especially. And of course, shout out to Trick Williams, NXT superstar, won the TNA championship on an NXT event. That's unprecedented history right there. The fact that even a TNA championship was defended on a WWE product, but changed hands to a WWE talent on that product is just wild. But Matt, as someone who doesn't know the ins and outs and the backstage comings and goings of the wrestling world, what did you initially think when you heard about these $100 fines for the slaps and the throat gestures?
I mean, I guess I don't know how prevalent they are, I mean, we're talking about like slaps like backstage in a promo. We're talking about people walking by that.
I think it's in the ring getting slapped in the face during a promo or something like that.
I mean, like I would figure in some ways that's expected. I don't know, and the throat, I mean, I don't know. It just feels kind of dumb, but I don't know how bad it's gotten over there at TNA.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, I feel like I'm watching these guys. I mean, God, I remember 2 weeks ago or whatever, I guess maybe a month ago now, when Jimmy Uso hit that slap on Gunther, I'm like, oh, that hurt. But I mean, I can't imagine. Now I can see like some wrestlers be like, don't slap me. I'm not somebody you slap. Like if
right.
If the Undertaker's like, you do not slap the Undertaker, I'd be like, yes, sir, I do not slap the Undertaker. Then yeah, but I mean, otherwise, I don't know. But at the same time, $100 fine, I don't know how much that affects a TNA contract. I feel like I could even afford $100 fine depending how much I'm slapping people. So
yeah, right.
There's some people I'd probably rather slap at work and pay $100 for and just walk away and be okay with it. So
it was just part of the promo, brother. It was just getting the crowd involved.
Or, or it's like, oh wait, only $100 to slap you? Here you go, buddy. Oh,
So I might do it twice.
Exactly.
So I can only guess that maybe somebody got pissed about it and just raised a commotion, or maybe they don't want to take away from the gravity of the slaps. Maybe to them, they feel slaps are something that really progresses a storyline. And that's one of the worst things you could do is just slap someone across the face.
I mean, I really just got to know what like TNA contracts are like and how much $100 fine hurts. Cause $100 fine just feels a little pedestrian for an athlete. I could be wrong. If it was $1,000 fine, I think a second, but $100 fine feels like, man, that's really not.
That's like 4 T-shirts,
Yeah, that's really not that. I'm still gonna slap you if I really want to,
And
I'm
don't
not
get me wrong, on the indie scene, $100 is $100. That might be for like some smaller companies. That might be your pay for the night. $100 may be your pay for the night. But again, I'm not too sure about TNA contracts. I know they have some high-profile names, so I would assume that they are paying some of these names enough money that $100 might not be a big deal. But I don't ever like to assume whatever everybody's pockets are looking like. But you know,
yeah.
But yeah, that's all I had for the rumor mills. Just some interesting things. Nothing too like groundbreaking in the world of professional wrestling, unless the stem cell therapy thing becomes a really big point going forward, which I'm all for. But other than that, I thought the episode of Monday Night Raw was pretty decent. I thought it got it set up for Money in the Bank even more so. Wish we would have seen either Cena, Paul, or Cody Rhodes here tonight. I don't know exactly how they would have fit in, but maybe just a pro. Like, you know how we got that vignette for Rhea talking about Money in the Bank. Maybe if we would have just gotten those for Logan Paul, one of those for Logan to just hype up the match even more, because now it feels like all of a sudden all this stuff happened at Saturday night's main event. Jey Uso is ingrained in everything else going forward, and now we have one more show to build. Right. Unless they're all going to be on SmackDown.
And you're right. Nothing really carried over. They have to be on SmackDown. I expect Cody Rhodes to be on SmackDown. Maybe not Cena, but I expect Cody to be on SmackDown for sure, given some, like I said, he's about to have his podcast start up. You said, what, tomorrow or something? So
yeah,
I'm pretty sure we'll have Cody on SmackDown, given some laying out some truth, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe his next guest is Jey Uso. Maybe they get on the show together before the match at Money in the Bank to kind of even prop it up a little more. But yeah, that's gonna do it for me, Di. Before we get out of here, you got anything else you want to say other than just like and subscribe?
Like I said, like, subscribe, comment. Like I said, there's all sorts of stuff Casey and I are fantasy booking right now. Well, I want to know what you guys think, man. I want to know, like, you know, where is Sammy going to go? Is he going lone wolf? You know, who is going to take the title off of Jey? Are you loving it as much as I am? Do you want anybody to take the title off of Jey, or you just want to yeet forever? You know, like I said, let us know in the comments. Comments are my favorite part. So hit up them comments. Give us your takes.
Matt loves it when y'all tear him apart in the comments.
Yeah,
he loves
me apart. I mean, come on. I certainly don't know everything by any means. I know less than.
I don't know everything.
I know two things. I know Seth's middle name is Freakin'.
There you go. That is his middle name. What's the other thing you know?
I know Stone Cold said so. So that's about.
I know Stone Cold said so. All right, well, look, that's going to do it for us. I think it's a good way to end it. Until next time, we'll be talking about Money in the Bank soon. We'll be talking about SmackDown coming up this week. But until next time, this has been TK Wrestling, and we are out.